welcome to EWTN's live coverage, this ongoing coverage on the Interregnum period. We have mourned Pope Francis with different memories, remembering his gestures, and we're going to now talk about his legacy. My name is Paula Riaza. I am Vatican correspondent for EWTN Noticias, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Dr. Matthew Bonson, Vice President and Editorial Director of EWTN News. Welcome, Matthew.
Good to be with you.
And Monsignor Roger Landry, of course, National Director of the Pontifical Mission Societies. We were just talking about this legacy. Pope Francis has done wonderful gestures. We were speaking about those gestures, but let's talk about the doctrine. Let's talk about the documents he left for us.
It was a rich pontificate following two of the greatest teachers in the history of the magisterium of the Church, or the teaching authority of the Church. But Pope Francis himself left us a legacy of 10 major documents. He started with a document called the Light of Faith, which has been called the encyclical written by four hands, because it was written mainly by Pope Benedict as part of a triptych on love was his first document, hope was his second major encyclical, and then the third was on faith, because these are the three things that remain, St. Paul tells us in his first letter to the Corinthians. But he wasn't able totally to finish it before he resigned the papacy, and so he entrusted it to Pope Francis. Pope Francis, out of humility, said, this is a document given to us by possibly a future doctor of the Church. He put a few of his own fingerprints on the document and published it under his name. But it was, as he said very plainly, a document written by four hands about the light that we receive from the gift of our faith to be able to see things as they really are, even though we walk by faith and not by sight. But then also about the way our faith is meant to illumine the world, kind of like, if you remember Die Hard, the movie, Die Hard 2, where there was the...
Lumen Fidei demonstrated two aspects of humility for two different popes. I love the fact that Pope Benedict XVI didn't hang around, for example, to finish it, that he didn't want this to be simply a capstone, but instead, in exactly the same way that he had a certificate of continuity is this a pontificate of rupture. We can drag in the whole argument about the Second Vatican Council. I think Pope Francis, in embracing Pope Benedict XVI's genius, was making a mark for continuity. A mark for continuity. That, yes, he's building on the work of his predecessor. The other thing, though, that is especially striking is the fact that Pope Francis, soon after then, released what was many people consider to be the blueprint of his pontificate. So, yes, he made this gesture, embraced the thought of Pope Benedict XVI, but then struck out in his own way.
That we know, we are convinced.
Sort of classic Roman event. In Evangelii Gaudium, are in Evangelii Gaudium in much the same way that
to the Holy Spirit, to continue to witness to Jesus Christ in the middle of the world with all wheat. I'm forgetting the substantive that he...
We were getting stories, getting to know who Jorge Mario Bergoglio was, and that's something that they highlighted so much, that humility in him. Do you remember any other moment when you've seen this humility, not only in his documents, but in his day-to-day?
Well, for starters, his constant refrain,
have to...
That's another one of those controversial takeaways that people have at times misunderstood. He used the phrase, for example, that
united with them. As we waited, there was prayers of the Rosary, songs being sung, and we all joined in. As we got closer to the body of our Holy Father, it was very emotional to see him, but so grateful for all the great things he did for the community, bringing people together. And my personal prayer was
is that we still don't know where it's going to happen. However, it's also important for us to be here with our Pope Francis. So I changed my plans, but I mean, it's a mix of feelings. I'm sad, but at the same time, I'm happy to be here in this special moment.
Él le dio mucha importancia y mucho valor.
He gave great importance and great value to the family environment. And so in that same family spirit, I wanted to go and say, thank you, Holy Father. Thank you for all the good. Thank you for the gift that was your person. Thank you for giving yourself completely to humanity and for giving us so many teachings. That was what I wanted to do. I felt sadness, emptiness, but at the same time, joy in knowing that up in heaven, we now have an extraordinary man interceding for us.
Isn't that such a proof that Pope Francis had this one-to-one relationship with so many people? Most of those people probably didn't meet him at all, but they had this one-to-one relationship. Why do you think this happens?
There is a charism of the papacy. There is a divine gift that's given so that people are able to sense what he used to always call in Spanish cercanía, this
Ago, people were weeping.
form them, and so that they can pick up their responsibilities in the church of bringing the gospel to the ends of the earth. And so after that, Francis wanted to show in that document how Christ is alive.
Level of disaffiliation, couch it in terms.
Sure, it was in
That right in the last week of the Synod on Synodality, as it was concluding its work, at the heart of it,
form of baptismal consecration we call religious life. What pains me most acutely,
The world has
which stands a woman, the daughter of
in what he was
ours, and think and choose.
yes. Now, controversial, but it was also a demonstration, I think, of the way that Pope Francis would try to teach in a way that didn't complicate things when you're trying to give consolation and mercy to somebody.
It's always important to know what
Understood.
it changed the papacy. St. John Paul II, everywhere he went, similarly kissed children. And so Pope Francis was proclaiming the gospel by that kiss. They recognized, everybody recognized that the Pope is a son.
Was, in fact, I think, also a reference to the power of confession.
So to just give a little color to help all of us get to know Pope Francis better, I go up and ask him to hear my confession. Fine.
in this moment where Dios te primerea, God is
Yeah.
the first one. So I was thinking, is it possible that during his teachings, during his papacy, he has been able to reinforce what confession is, what the sacrament entails?
So the first of mercy was
Well, to Pope Francis, I dare say that many of them were touched in some fashion by Pope Francis's call for mercy. And he touched their lives in a way that has compelled them, impelled them, to stand in line now for hours to say goodbye to him.
I'd love to tell a personal story about that. At the beginning of his pontificate, 8 straight flights. I always sit next to the window, and there was generally 1 or 2 people sitting next to me. They'd see me dressed as a priest on a flight and ask, "Are you a Catholic priest?" "Yes." "Well, I just love the new Pope." "I do too. What do you love about him?" "Well, I love about the fact that he's merciful and everything else like this." And I said, "How much do you love the fact that he preaches about mercy?" A lot.
Sin, as he said it, that our pride prevents us from going to confession.
Just like Catholics are accustomed to going to wakes.
Francis is lying in state here. He's lying as all of us continue to pray for him, but let's also then pray for the church and pray for the cardinals who will have this momentous decision coming in the next days. Then we have the sealing of the casket of the coffin on Friday night by Cardinal Farrell at the Camerlengo, as all the preparation streets of Rome to see through the streets of Rome all the way to the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore, where his tomb now is clearly in readiness to receive him. And we go back again to that concept of humility. It's going to be a simple slab with just the name Franciscus written on it. That's what he wanted, and that's how the church is going to honor him.
And with that, we come to an end today. Thank you for watching. We encourage you to visit our platforms, ewtn.com, catholicnewsagency.com. We are still mourning Pope Francis, so we also encourage you to pray for the soul of Pope Francis. Thank you so much, and God bless.